So what do I mean by Battlefield 6 needing to be a modern game? I put it in quotes after all, so what am I talking about? Today's video is the final chapter for the BF6 series, and I'll be going into some modern standards I think Battlefield 6 has to hit on release. There are certain expectations the gaming community has about a new video game release, and Battlefield should be no different. While not everything we want will be in the game, there are industry standards that the DICE team should be working towards if they want a successful new Battlefield game. So for these modern expectations, I'll be going over one game mechanic that needs to be up to date, and then more broad topics about a modern Battlefield release. So for the game mechanic part, I want to go over what standards the soldier movements should be at in BF6. For soldier movements, Battlefield 5 has the most up-to-date and cleanest movement system in the Battlefield franchise. For all the game's flaws, it was easy to maneuver on the maps, and for BF6, this same kind of physicality should be expected. To show off some of the new features, I have Star Wars Fan 9999 as my model, so thanks for helping me out here. First off is the standard sprint we all know and love. It's been in every Battlefield game, I think, so not much to say here. We're definitely seeing this return for BF6. Next up is the crouch run, which is a compromise between sprinting and walking. In crouch running, you move slower than a full sprint, but when you crouch, you shorten your hitbox, so there is a trade-off between speed and vulnerability. Hopefully crouch running can return, as it looks good, and is a new way to move. Next is the improved window mechanics in Battlefield 5. When looking at BF1, the windows were really finicky, as you had to destroy the entire window before you could vault through it, and even that action was challenging at times. But BF5 improved this drastically, and now you could simply sprint into a window and smash right through it.
Yeah, I see him. Go. I do the one below you.
Related to the windows, when you fell from a large height, you had the option to do a roll to lower your fall damage, with the cost of getting up slowly, or you could take the drop, causing more damage. This was another cool innovation that gave another tactical choice to players, and it was one of BF5's animations that actually looked good. And finally for BF5's movement, ledge grabbing was also improved, meaning it was easier to be creative about where players can navigate on Battlefield's large maps. The better ledge grabbing also made it easier to get over smaller obstacles that might have tripped you up in BF1. Now Battlefield 5 did introduce sliding to the franchise, and it's up to you if you like it or not. Personally, I don't think sliding should come back, as it looks really silly and out of place for the Battlefield franchise. Battlefield has usually taken a more serious approach to its multiplayer, and the sliding breaks that immersion. Just imagine a real-life soldier being able to slide around on concrete around a corner. You can't do that really, because concrete is rough and not a waxed floor, and the soldier would probably trip over himself. So for the sake of immersion and balance, I really hope sliding stays out of Battlefield. Just leave it to God. So for the part about the standards the game as a whole should be at, I want to start this off with the first thing we will ever see for BF6, and that is the marketing campaign. As we patiently wait for the first announcement of the game, due sometime in the spring, I am sure the fanbase is reflecting on past marketing campaigns of earlier Battlefield titles. The two I am most thinking about is BF1 and BF5. For BF5, we all know how that poorly went. From the confusing tone of the first trailer and the following ones, and the developer and management tweets that stirred up the wrong kind of attention. When compared to the hype train of BF1, it's really confusing to think how BF5 ended up so poorly. DICE needs to get their act together and make a great marketing campaign like BF1. First impressions mean a lot, and BF6 has a lot riding on it. So DICE needs to have a smashing opening reveal trailer that generates hype for the game. I just hope DICE has the right people in charge this time around, and we can get a great hype season for BF6. It feels silly to have to mention the point of DICE needing to make a cool marketing campaign, but after BF5, I guess anything is possible. Moving on, what are we going to see when we boot up BF6 for the first time? Well, that would be the loading screen in the first menu, and I got a few ideas for this. Now, whatever DICE is going to make the loading screen look like, it needs to be appropriately themed for the tone of BF6, and it needs to make players excited to play the game. Battlefield 1 did this perfectly well, with its loading screen having the flashy background, the lady center screen with the action-filled pose, and of course the excellent BF1 soundtrack served as the icing on the cake. These three elements, specifically the soundtrack, hyped you up to play BF1, and the loading screen always managed to take my full attention. So in an ideal world, let's imagine what the BF6 loading screen could look like. First, picture two vignettes that take up the flanks of the screen. In them are gameplay footages of BF6 or pre-recorded cinematics, and in the center of the screen is the BF6 logo. The music that cycles in the background is something close to Afrobeat's menu concepts, being dark and calculating. So what I've just described is the 2005 Battlefront 2's loading screen, and there's no reason why DICE shouldn't make their own rendition of this classic. Going back and watching videos of BF2's loading screen makes you realize how DICE could make an excellent interactive menu for BF6. I know this isn't going to happen, but I hope DICE has something cool planned. But, if this is reality, I'm gonna go quite ballistic. After we get past that first loading screen, we will have to navigate through the menus, and we arrive at the next point, which is that BF6 needs a good menu UI design. Personally, I think that BF1 had the best menu navigation in the series. The matte background gave a cool visual to admire, the superb soundtrack always played an emotional tune, and navigating from your soldier loadout to playing the game was smooth. These options were clear to see and easy to use. Compare that to BF5, and you see in that game a bleak and depressing background, along with a lot of buttons to press to get from one place to another. Another place to improve from BF5 is how often the UI failed the DICE team when they were trying to make new adjustments. I'm sure you remember the don't have the tech memes, and that issue led to stuff like not being able to have more than 6 game modes available at one time. So for BF6, the menus should fit the theme of the game well, be reasonably easy to navigate, and be flexible enough to support any changes that DICE might bring. On a similar note, the in-game HUD needs to be looking good for BF6. My biggest issue with BF5 was the off-putting HUD that had the baby blues and reds. It didn't fit a World War II game at all, and it was kind of ugly to look at. BF1 had a HUD that fit its dark theme very well, and that's all BF6 really needs to do. As long as the HUD is in the same tone as the rest of the game, I will be fine. My only small concern is that I hope the HUD looks a little more unique when compared to BF3 and 4, because those two games still get me confused sometimes. And to wrap up this section on visuals, there is a question of whether BF6 will be running on a new version of the Frostbite engine, and I do think there will be a new rendition. Reasons being that we've been on Frostbite 3 since BF4, which is about 8 years old. Graphical power will be important for the newest consoles, so graphical output will need to be increased to compensate. Another thing is that a new Frostbite engine is likely to be a marketing strategy, like how BF4 was using a new engine for Levolution. So expect to see a new engine supporting the new features of BF6 promoted in the early PR. Apart from the visuals, BF6 needs to be a clean game that runs well at launch, being free of bugs and cheaters. Bugs in the game is what DICE can control so much easier, and for a modern game that has an extra year of development and the full attention of DICE, BF6 should be bug-free when we play it for the first time. Going back to BF1 from BF5, and you can enjoy a robust experience that performs well. And when bugs do occur in BF1, they are often pretty funny and outrageous, unlike BF5, which had so many things that added up.
I'm kind of proud of myself.
I really hope the days of seeing what new bugs, patches brought to the game are over, because I'd rather play the game, not exterminate it. And for anti-cheat, I went into this more with my gameplay concerns video, but with PC players and the potential for crossplay, and the expected Battle Royale mode, cheating could be a huge issue for BF6. While DICE has not taken much of any efforts to establish anti-cheat in the past, I hope for our PC players, and potentially the larger console player base, that DICE is taking steps to have some kind of decent anti-cheat for BF6. Cheating has gone on long enough in video games, and it's kind of stupid that DICE hasn't at least tried to prevent it in their games more actively. And finally, flowing out from anti-cheat is that rental servers, or community servers, need to be added in the game from an early point, day 1 to be exact. RSP, as I'll call the servers, are great for the communities that they foster, and also the fact that admins can kick cheaters in their servers, so RSP acts as a form of anti-cheat. BF6 took forever to get the community servers, and they didn't make that big of a splash. Also, to improve from BF5, the server options were a bit limited at the start, so giving more robust options to customize is the best path. BF5 did have a good feature, in the fact that anyone could make a server for free instead of paying for servers, so hopefully that free model can return in BF6. Like with any game, it can be fun to speculate on what the new features might be. We all have personal wants and wishes when it comes to new releases, and these form in the pre-launch period of the game. Not every little detail that we feel would make the game perfect will be included, and that's a fact we all have to live with. It's also important not to overhype your expectations, and not to be disappointed when the game doesn't turn out how you expected it. But Battlefield 6 is in an interesting position. For BF6, it has a lot more attention than normal surrounding it for me and in the Battlefield community. Battlefield games release every 2 to 3 years, making them less frequent than Call of Duty games. Not only is there much more hype around a new Battlefield release, but Battlefield can't take as many duds for the franchise compared to COD, being that the new games aren't made quick enough to cover the failures of the previous games. Fortunately, Battlefield did give itself a buffer zone with how well BF1 did. It's unfortunate that BF5 was not a good World War II sequel to BF1, but its failures were within the toleration limits for the community. However, I am not confident the Battlefield franchise can take another hit as strong as BF5 was, because another bad game will lose even more interest for the franchise, leading to less sales. EA is a profit-oriented company, so it's reasonable to assume that they might pull the plug on the franchise if Battlefield 6 does not perform, which would be a shame to kill off a nearly 20-year-old franchise that has pushed FPS boundaries with some great entries. So Battlefield 6 has the large task of getting the franchise back on its feet after BF5 took a large fall, and maybe with a bit of luck it can run. This is why I and many other community members are putting a lot of thought into how the game will turn out, given that Battlefield 6 is such an important moment in the franchise. I know Battlefield has not reached its stride and peak popularity, so I see Battlefield 6 as a stepping stone to that future. For more official news, apart from all the leaks, the first Battlefield 6 reveal is set in the spring, likely to include a little teaser trailer and maybe more. More and more gameplays and details will be shown off throughout the summer, and we can start to see how close our predictions were, until of course we can play the game for ourselves. So with that, I'd like to thank all of you who has made it this far in the BF6 series for these Battlefield 6 predictions. I gotta say the support has been great all throughout, and specifically the gun customization video broke 100 views, so thanks for that. I covered a lot of topics in this series, and definitely some were left undiscussed, so let's talk about it in the comments below. But thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.